Hi, my name is Sridhar Rangan. I'm the Festival Director of KASHISH Mumbai International Queer Film Festival, which is having its 12th edition right now. And we are in the third weekend. And you must have already seen the wonderful films which are part of Student Shorts Competition number 3. And today we have the director of the film Shikhandi, which has been made under the Whistling Woods International School. And we have Sahil Gada with us. Thank you, Sahil, for joining us today. And we have Bhagirathi Raman, who has been hosting all the Q&As with the student competition. So you already know her, no introduction is necessary. So thank you, Bhagi, for agreeing to host this particular conversation.
Always. Such a pleasure.
So over to you, Bhagi, to have a conversation with Sahil about the film Shikhandi.
All right. Thank you. Hello, Sahil.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So excited about this conversation because Shikhandi particularly stood out. I know it's a story that over the last couple of years has just gained a lot of traction. A lot of people are taking the story and trying to like open it up and see what it means, especially from a queer narrative point of view. Tell me a bit about how you stumbled upon the story.
So I have been a sucker for mythology from ever since I can remember. Like I have found such a safe space in the idea and in the stories of mythology, particularly why I choose to tell mythological stories. I sort of do a retelling of it. Because what happens is, I personally feel like mythology is open to all generations and to reinterpret as generations pass by with the problems or with the society that they are currently living in. I personally feel like mythology provides a beautiful space for that. And that is where like I stumbled about, like I want to do something about this. And it was interesting because like you said, like Shikhandi, thus the story idea of it has gone and gained a lot of traction in the previous years, and it's continuing to do so, which is rightfully so, which is quite exciting. So it is an archetypal story, like any mythology tales, be it these different stories within them, they're archetypal. So they are sort of how they've gotten some morals attached to it, which is what I personally feel. And what's so interesting about it is reinterpreting it and retelling it with the context of today. And so that's how I got the idea of maybe telling Shikhandi into a story, into a film. That was the very initial thought. Not necessarily a film, not necessarily anything, but just what would possibly, if I had to tell something, what would my retelling be? And that's where the journey of Shikhandi particularly started, and taking this story and then fruition into a film towards the end.
Did something about the story of Shikhandi resonate with you in particular? Or was it whilst you were maneuvering through the world of mythology it stood out?
So there's this beautiful Bengali director that I'm very inspired by called Rituparna Ghosh. And I surprisingly got introduced to him towards my final years in film school, which is very weird because, I mean, my final months in film school, which is very weird because I hadn't known him, or I hadn't known about their cinema or anything. And then once I started involving and diving into the craft and what his stories were, and I finally thought that this is possibly something I'm excited about. The idea of juxtaposition with mythology and society today. And he made this wonderful film called Chitrangada. And that gave me sort of that courage to possibly dive into something where I really just connected to it. And so, because I've been reading different versions of Shikhandi and different interpretations of the story and how it's mulling down. And finally, when I decided to tell the story, it was there. Like, so there's this very weird thing. I'm very bad with words, but I can express it through cinema.
I have not been bad with words so far, so I don't know what you're talking about, but we'll accept the moment.
But yeah, so it was that idea of Shikhandi and how it's so bloody relevant today. Like, in terms of what our society is going through, especially what the community is going through. And it's been shunned out by such ideologies, such heteronormative ideologies, that these stories have become like they've been gate kept in a sense because it belongs to a certain sect of people that it cannot be reinterpreted. And that really pissed me off. Like, that is not the point, right? So here's an idea, here's a version that I would want to say, and I would want to interpret it this way. And this is valid also. Yeah. And this is all with regards to the community, which is unfortunately, even today, we are on the shuns, or we're on the borders of society. Like, we're not even in the, like, it's
okay.
as good as
there's
we're
still
not
a long way to go till we're there. So tell us a bit about your process then of reinterpreting it, because the story itself resonated with you. You've got Chitrangada as a bit of a background in a way that you're drawing inspiration from. Tell us a bit about your process of reinterpretation.
Yeah. So Shikhandi was developing in my head somewhere else and stuff. And then, so I have this story where, so I stay in Andheri, and I was going to school in Goregaon. And when I was going, I was in a rickshaw, and this is usual junction and stuff. So over there, I met a lovely trans woman begging on the streets. And we started to have a conversation, and I noticed something that she was doing, which was, so she used to take money and then she used to give like half of it back. So I asked her, like, why would you do that? And it was a very simple answer where she's like, because I don't want anyone to give me money in bad faith. And like, even just reliving that moment, like, it really struck me. And then that was my entry point into the story, where so I just got off and we just started having a conversation. And that became my blueprint, because I used to go back to her. I used to tell her, like, this is what I'm working on. Is it okay? This is the interpretation that I'm going with. What do you feel about it? So it became this collaborative process just by this one signal on the Goregaon junction. And so then when we started uncovering the research that I was doing and her story in particular, that's like, I think in the 5th or 6th conversation, it struck to me that these are very similar tales. And that's when I decided, like, okay, like, I think this is a space to possibly juxtapose these two stories, the idea of Shikhandi and the idea of this story over here. And that's how I started writing the first draft of the film. Yeah.
Nice. Has she watched the film? What did she think about it?
She has not watched it yet, and I'm really I've been trying to get her to watch it. I'm very excited for her to experience the film. But it's been such an eye-opening and beautiful process, because she was so open with her life. She didn't have to be, but she's like, here's a story, and I'm just the idea of possibly my story making a difference in somebody else's life. Yeah. That was very powerful. And I was like, okay, cool. So it's very powerful. I don't even have words to say.
So we're going to take the story and your process and put it in a film and an academic context, because we have actually spoken about how film schools enable or have the power to enable inclusivity and conversations around various storylines that come in. So do you want to tell us a bit about how your peers helped in, maybe faculty, if not helped, like what was the influence in the creation of this project?
Yeah. So from the get-go, there were two intentions of that I wanted to make very clear. If I'm to make this film, first of all, it has to be a retelling of mythology, because of what I've said earlier and how it really needs to be retold with a different perspective. And the second one was to be able to cast authentically. I wanted it had to be people of the community telling their story. And so those were my two intentions that I went in, and we approached the film school and stuff. And the thing with Whistling Woods is it's a very liberated space. And it's a very exciting space to just explore anything that you feel you want to explore. And so when we pitched the idea to them, they were very excited. Like, there was nothing, like, there's nothing, like no problems at all. They're just very supportive of like, please go ahead, make the film, and make sure. So we got one advice, which was brilliant advice, where we were told that just make sure you don't lose the essence of mythology, which was very, very.
What does that mean? What is the essence of mythology for them and for you?
Yeah, so for me, it was my reinterpretation of this particular character and her conundrum, the dilemma she's facing within. So normally I think what would happen normally is like, it would just become a crutch. The idea of mythology would just become a crutch for people to just dive on that idea of intelligence and like, okay, you're doing mythology, like, okay, very smart and stuff. And then you essentially lose the soul of that story, or lose the soul of that character, which you're really trying to dig deep into. So for me, and what I interpreted was that from that conversation, where it was like, whatever said and done, don't ride on the idea that, ooh, it's a mythological story and to be received like that and stuff. Like, great, it will be, but with that, do not lose the soul and the core purpose of this character and what it is supposed to do in the entire arc of the story.
Okay.
So that was what I interpreted, and that was what I tried to do, because again, I'll keep re-emphasizing the importance of retelling, because that's how we're slowly shaping society, right? With these myths that have been before us. And how the generation from like 10 years from now will be able to look at this story and then take it in the context of when they're living, and then again tell a retelling based on what this is done. So what we're doing right now is very important.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, so coming back, you said they were very supportive of it as long as the essence of mythology was not lost. Did you collaborate with other students of your course?
Yes. So it was very interesting. So how Whistling Woods works is a very interesting and collaborative space, because we have departments. We have production, we have screenwriting, we have acting, we have direction, we have sound design. And so every student from these departments come together and make a film. And so it's highly collaborative. And it was very interesting because we had these people from different backgrounds beyond the community, and how we had to bring everyone on the same page to actually tell a story, which was the most exciting bit. And once we move ahead, like, I'll tell you some amazing stories that we experienced during the shoot with our wonderful actors. And it was very powerful, yeah.
We're now going to quickly scoot over to Francis. Hello, Francis. We would love to hear more about your film today. Do you want to tell us how you happened across the story, or what is the story behind the story?
Yeah, totally. Well, this is my end year's project in a French cinema school, and we had to create a film. So I knew I really wanted to make a story about friendship, about four friends, a group of friends. And so we talked about it with the scriptwriters, and we just talked about our lives and what we went through, the end of school. And then I remember this, I had one of my best friends, and we had a real argument and a big fight, and we never talked after it. I never got to see him. And often I was wondering, like, if I saw him in a bar or at a party or in the road, what would we say? How would he look at me? How would I look at him? And I think the main start of the project is from this feeling. And then a few weeks later, I went to a concert, one of my other best friends singing for the first time in public. And this was just a strange feeling. Like, I remembered all these memories from our school, and we were all like in the same school. And it was, I'm sure everyone crosses this feeling. So we said, okay, we're going to do kind of a mix between those two feelings I think everyone went through, and this was the start of the film of today. And then we talked about the characters, about where we're going to shoot it, and it was a great adventure.
So yeah, the dynamic between the characters is so palpable. How did you go about getting that done?
Oh, well, the casting of this film was really interesting and I knew it was really important. So we did a month of castings to find the right people to play the characters. And then once they were chosen, we went on weekends in Normandy and I wanted them to become friends because I knew if I had to film this friendship, they really had to live something together. So we did a couple of weekends just talking about the story and getting to know each other. And I think that's how we filmed it. And now they're good friends. They're good friends after the
Yeah,
story.
and so they did not know each other before this film.
No, nobody knew each other. No.
Oh, wow. And are they all queer, not queer, mix of both?
A bit of mix of both, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't a priority to have to have like a queer actor per se. It was just
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't priority. Yeah. But I mean, if they were, it was great. But if they weren't, it wasn't a problem because we were going to work together with all of this process.
okay. So you've spoken a bit about how the scripting came together and how the casting did. Did you have any sort of mega hiccups or something that stood out whilst this was taking place? Or maybe you had an idea of what the film would look like, and from the process it turned into something else. Is there a story like that?
Well, there was this big pandemic, so we were supposed to shoot in a year earlier than we did, and it all stopped because of the COVID. So we reported the shooting, and then it was great. And the first day of shooting, we had a big storm. We were shooting the end of the film was the big fight, and there was a huge storm on us, so we had to stop the shooting as well. So these were the two big problems, but then we found solutions to shoot it again. But no, mostly it is a bit like what I had in head while shooting it. Just there are a few sequences that were written that we didn't put in the editing. It's weird because there's a sequence where the main character leaves in car, and for me it was the main scene of the film. And finally, in the film, in the editing, we decided to not put it in because it didn't apport something else to the film. So
Something
yeah, I
that
would
was
say
the crux of the film just didn't feature in the film at all.
yes. And it was the first scene we wrote, and we composed all the story around this scene, and then finally it's not in the film. So it was kind of weird, but I guess it's magic of cinema.
Yeah, it must have been eye-opening just as the process of filmmaking itself. So, Sahil, you were just talking about how you had your peers also work with you on this film. Did you have to workshop with them? I know you were really keen about having someone from the community participate, but what about those who weren't? Like, did you have what was the case with working with people from across the board?
Yeah. So it was fantastic. So we had like a couple of days and then of just sensitization of people who weren't from the community. As to and it comes down to basic decorum on set, how to address people, how to be with people, how to be in a coexisting community, right? Because in an essence of we're obviously telling the story and stuff, but what's more important to me personally as a filmmaker is what happens behind the scenes, because that's the experience that people will go with. The film will get done, it'll get made, the story will be told, but that personal experience is something that will stick with you for life. Of making that film. And so, and it was very interesting because we workshopped the entire film over Zoom because of the pandemic. And it was very interesting because we had people from the community interacting with people who were not from the community. And it was just a couple of days of just addressing concerns of people, like how to address people, just basic decorum on set. And what was the amazing, exciting bit was to see how little thought processes would just change when we went on to the shoot, because it was a 4-day shoot. And what used to happen was, like, I love these moments where we'd break for lunch, and everyone who were part of the who were part of the crew, especially the students and stuff, we would sit around and eat lunch together. And we had the wonderful Vicky Ji and the wonderful Madhuri Ji, who were from the community, who are out and out from the community, and they're amazing people, and they've done such amazing work, and we're just so honored to have them in the film. And they would just tell their stories, and they were entertaining, they were tears, they were dramatic, they were so pure. And that for me was, and I would normally observe people who are not from the community, from my student body and stuff. And you just see little light bulbs going on in their minds, and how different perceptions were changing, not necessarily with the film itself, which I really hope does happen, but in the process of making that film.
Nice. This is actually really like relieving to hear, if nothing else, the fact that the process of filmmaking itself can bring about some sort of change at a very subliminal level, but it's there. Yes. What about you, Sahil? Like when Shikhandi was being made, did you have like a before, during, after change that was taking place, something that stood out from the time of filming to its end?
Not really. So I'll tell you, because there was a lot of like, this is how I work, which is very interesting. Like whatever's in the script, like, I mean, I'm obviously open to like new interpretations that we see in every stage of filmmaking, right? However, this film, the way it was on paper, and it really just came onto screen. Like we didn't leave out anything. It was exactly that. And it was very surprising. And it was that because we were just like CHILLET, like we were supposed to shoot this film about 8 months before we actually shot it, which gave me a chance to like just go back into the script, dive into the script again and tear it apart. And once it came back together again, I'm so glad we didn't make it then. Oh my God, I'm so happy we didn't make it then, because what it came to, like it was completely different. So it was that sort of change process that happened. And there was one thing that was very interesting. This is the power of collaboration, like on how, in terms of the acting talent, what they brought in, and one specific editing, there was one specific editing collaboration which I was so happy. Like it was nowhere in my head. It was nowhere in the script. Yeah, nowhere. Like we'd written it very differently and stuff. So I'm talking about, well, it's not a spoiler, but I'm talking about the ending. And those few juxtaposition shots were completely from the editor. And I was like, oh my God, I did not even imagine it to be this. And it's so powerful. So those were the major changes. Like one was like in terms of the scripting, we shot it, and then that entire, the crux like of the film like really came out through just those putting together of these few little shots towards the end, which came from the editor. And I was like, oh cool, we're good. This is good.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean,
did you watch it and go like, I wish I had, or I wish we had?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Not we hadn't, but I wish we had. Like just adding some more things. Yeah. So I think that's with every film stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like
and it's also interesting to see that two different processes. Like it tells you a lot about just the way film even is, and how everyone and every project would probably be different. What about you, Francis? Did you watch the film and then go like, something else could have been different, or something could have changed? Was the pandemic beneficial in any way for this film? Were you able to sit with it longer? Yeah, okay, go for it.
Yeah, yeah, the pandemic was great, actually. When I think about it, it's a bit like what he was saying before. It made us think about the script and what was important in the script. And there were a few sequences that we decided not to shoot because it was too complicated. And finally, I think it was really good, and some more ideas. And we just talked about it during the pandemic, doing Zooms and discussions about the film, and it really was helpful for the film. And yeah, I totally, when I see it now, I wish we had done more stuff, or I wish we had not shot like this, but I think we're still progressing and yeah, there's an evolution in our cinema, so it's good. I mean, I'm really glad about this film, but I think the next one won't be the same as That's what we did.
And that's your learning curve anyway.
Yes.
But coming back to, did you have a particular A, where did you shoot the film? B, did that have to change because of the pandemic? Like, did these logistical problems affect the creative choices being made as far as, location, people, etc. goes?
Well, we were really, really scared because we had to shoot some scenes in a bar and in a nightclub, and we thought it wasn't possible with the pandemic. And then finally, we find solutions to shoot it. So no, actually, we didn't have
Nice.
any problems. Yes.
So where exactly is the film being shot?
In Normandy, that's a French seaside, and and all the inside part is in Paris.
Ah, okay. Okay. And where is the university? Because just before you joined us, we were also checking with Sahil about sometimes universities provide frameworks, they like film schools do ads, sometimes you're restricted, sometimes not. What was your experience from an academic structure point of view in creating this film?
Well, it was so the school is near Paris, like 1 hour from Paris, and it's in 3 years. And this was my last year's project. So they helped us. They all the cameras and all the lighting stuff and sound stuff is all from the school, and they really helped us during like 6 months writing the script and thinking about what's important in the script. And yeah, they really helped us making those films.
Nice. Did you have to get the story approved by them or tell them the story? You did? Okay. What was
Yes.
their response like?
Sorry, what was?
What was their response? How did they respond to the story and your idea and the process of what you wanted to do?
Well, the writing part lasts three months, and at the beginning they didn't really understand what I wanted to make, and then we talked about it, and then finally the person who was going with us through this writing step said, "Oh, okay, I understand now what you're doing." So they accepted it, but it was kind of long, long writing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this has been good. Also, have other people watched this film? Have you had people give you feedback, tell you what it's like?
Well, actually, the production in school is in 2 weeks' time, so we'll find out what they think about it. But yeah, we are quite lucky with this film because it kind of had a different travel in festivals around the world. So, well,
what has been the response? How did people respond to it? Of course, we're waiting for Kashish's response, but before that,
well, they are. It's quite surprising. They really like the film, so I'm really happy about that.
why are you surprised? It's a good film.
Yeah, yes, but it's always surprising when you make something with all of your heart and with all of the group of students, and then people say, "Wow, it was really good," and then they talk about it after the production, and yeah, it feels good, creating something and then having good comments to good people saying it's good. So yeah, we're really happy about the travel thing.
Did people come about and ask you many questions about it after they'd watched the film, or did anyone say anything specific that made you go, oh, like just either think about it or just it sat with you for a while?
Yes, and people open themselves. They say like, yeah, it really reminds me of a story I actually lived, and it's it feels right to say like, oh wow, we made something universal with just a small story, and it's awesome for us to create this feeling.
That is a lovely feeling. Yeah. What about you, Sahil? Have people come back to you after watching it? Have a lot of people watched it? What has been the response?
It's been very overwhelming. Because like personally, I feel like I am of the thought that at the end of the day, you're making a film and it will not really change the world. Like it's just a film at the end of the day, right? However, it's been very interesting.
Never just a film.
Sorry?
It is never just a film. It is a film.
Yes, exactly. So, so just recently, our film was part of a fundraising campaign for the transgender community in India. So many people watched it through that. And what I was so excited about was the response from, obviously, the person I met, who I drew a lot of inspiration from. She still has to see the film. But what I was so excited about, and what I was really hoping to crack was for Madhuri ji and Vicky ji, who acted in our film. And they had a lot of inputs in the script. And I wanted to know particularly what they really felt about the story, because it was their story. It was the story of their community. And once I got a stamp of approval from them, I was like, okay, cool, I'm okay. And surprisingly, like what's been such a meditative process for this story to come out so beautifully is like, I've gotten a lot of people saying that they've loved the music of the film. And I'm very excited for people to experience that music, because music surpasses anything. It just connects with your soul in a different way. And it's important for a film like this to connect with your soul, because then I will believe my own inhibition. I will stop believing my own inhibition about that films don't make a difference. So that is one path where we're hoping that the music, the story, everything connects to people and does hopefully make a change.
Tell us a little bit about the music though. Did you have to do a lot of work in putting that together?
Yes, so practically, so our film is a juxtaposition. So we have a theater sequence, and then we have the reality sequence. And I have this wonderful relationship with my music director, where when we're creating, we're seated there for like at least 4 hours, or in terms of like days and days and days. And we hardly speak like 3-4 words. Like he plays something, I was like, okay, no, that doesn't work. And he plays something else, and we just connect, and we just go on this different journey of just things that are connect. Like, because music for me is such a visceral medium to tell a story. And we just created music without many words. And so the first process was creating music for the theater sequence, because we had to shoot on that. And then later on, we created music for the score of the film. And it was very interesting, because we have 2 folk songs in the film. And it's so ironic, because these folk songs have talked about these particular human emotions that we're exploring in the film eons before. And so it's still so frazzling that we're still unfortunately talking about these things today. But it's great that we're talking about them, and we're grateful to be able to reinterpret and retell this in terms of mythology, in terms of music, in terms of how relevant the story is till today. And so that was, yeah.
And so that was the journey with the music.
Yeah. And we were very grateful for these music composers to land us the folk song, to be able to be used in our film. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Francis? Because the characters actually, so much is said, unsaid, you know, it happens in quietness, and it happens in, how did music, or how did that balance between music, silence, and dialogue work with today?
It was really complicated to create. All the musics of the film are original. We composed them for the film, and we talked a long time about what the singing part would be. What would she sing? So we actually wrote with the scriptwriters the lyrics of the songs, and then we find someone to put it into music. And the main question we were asking ourselves was like, what parts of the music will we show? What will it say about the relation between the characters? And what will we not show? What will we put in the pastime? And it was amazing to do. And we just talked about it and created stuff on our computers. Like, if we do a pause here, can we go in the pastime? Yes, this works, but we're not sure if it's actually going to work with the actors, with all the editing. And it was like if we created a huge song, and the song being all the film, the 20 minutes of the film. It was really, really interesting. And then we added some instrumental parts for the ending, and that wasn't supposed to happen. And so the editing did a lot of things as well. Earlier on, you were talking about scenes that weren't written in the script. And actually the scene where they all dance in the nightclub and we see them on the beach and they're just looking to each other. This was not written. There was just a sunset and we said, okay, we have to do something with the sunset. And we just filmed reactions and we were saying like, okay, maybe you could run over there, you can climb. And we just had like a package of different extracts we had. And it was really a work of editing to say like, this is saying this about the character at this time. And we want it at this moment in the film and it was so amazing to create.
And it just fits together. It's fascinating sometimes to see that. Like, it's not partless. Some things are part of the plan. Some things just surprise you, and it's just good enough as well. But this is good to know about the kind of effort put into composing it and creating a song specifically for the film, and then working around that. That's quite a bit. But yeah, last question. What are you guys up to next? What's going to happen now? Sahil, you go first.
Yeah.
Can I just share a little anecdote?
Please, always.
So, you know, like we're just talking about how I am a big believer of the universe and the energy and how it really plays out. So we were shooting the scene and Vicky G had brought a box of jewelry. Like, even though she's like, this is our film, like we're going to bring whatever we need for the film and stuff. And it was very sweet. And so my costume designer had forgotten a piece of earring on that day. And he'd forgotten it at home. We'd spent a lot of money on that one piece of earring, and he decides to forget it on the day of the shoot. So I was like, oh, great, very nice. So we're just prepping for the shot and stuff, and I wasn't aware of the fact that he had forgotten the earring and stuff. And just randomly, because you will find a motif of the peacock in and out in the film and stuff. And Vicky G, like, I was there, I was in my monitor, I thought he had the earring and stuff. And then when I noticed he was wearing a very different earring. The actor was wearing a very different earring. And that was an earring of a peacock feather, which Vicky G had brought from home. And I was like, the fact that he had to forget the earring, and now we have Vicky G who brought in the earring, and now
sometimes it just comes together, especially with that motif. It just, it just does.
So yeah, it was just chance. So these have been moments which I can't fathom. Like, okay,
nice.
But yeah,
there's always something unscripted.
Yeah. So coming back to the question. Yeah, so I'm working on 2 more retellings, which I hope to make a trilogy out of with Shikhandi. So I'm working on Draupadi, and I'm working on Ganga. So these are 2 stories. Yeah.
Interesting. And as part of Whistling Woods itself?
Yeah, very excited,
Yeah, we can't wait to see more as well.
Thank you.
What about you, Francis? This is your 3rd year, so I'm assuming you're graduating.
Yeah, well, I would love to do another short movie. That would be a dream. But just after school, I started working as an assistant script supervisor on French TV shows and on film. So I'm doing this I really enjoy it. I really like details, and I think it's so interesting. So I'm mainly focusing on this part, on assistant script supervisor. I want to be a script supervisor. So I hope, like, in, I don't know, 20, 30 years, to be a script supervisor and maybe to direct a first film. That would be great. So I'm doing this.
To continue with the filming as well, just keeping it in your back pocket until.
Yes, yeah, because it's fascinating, but it's really hard here in France to create projects. So I'm really waiting to be able to create a project with money and with great people, and I don't want to. I don't want it to be fast, and I really want to take time and do something good.
What makes it so challenging in France, though? Is it because of funds or people, or?
Yeah, I guess you have to know a lot of people to have the funds to create the film. But hopefully I will get there someday.
Yeah, but the attention to detail is very apparent. And I think as script supervisor, that should assistant script supervisor, and then onward and forward.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Thank you both. It has been such a fascinating conversation. I love the fact that y'all come from different ways of filmmaking, different styles. The stories are different. One comes from mythology, one comes from a current day interaction, and I think the flavors brought to the table have been tremendous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great. It was great, and I'm really looking forward to see all the films, especially yours as well, Sahil.
Same, likewise.
So thank you, Bhagi, for moderating this beautiful Q&A with the two filmmakers. You pulled it off so beautifully. You brought out the nuances of the films. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sahil and Francis, for joining the conversation. Your films are beautiful, and we're going to be on September 5th. Come to know who's going to be the winner. There are 12 films in the student short competition, but each of your films are a winner, even though it may win or may not win. But each of the films have been so beautiful, and we all been enjoying these films at the Kashish 2021. And I wish both of you and all the filmmakers a lot of good luck for your future journeys. You are the filmmakers of tomorrow, so best of luck on that. And thank you for joining us. And please, all of you, join us on the September 5th on our social media handles to watch the closing ceremony, which will have performances, of course, from the LGBTQ community and the allies. And it's going to be a grand closing ceremony and award presentation. So do join us on September 5th. And thank you for joining this.